Dear friends, it gives me great pleasure in welcoming all of you to this last of the series of talks on Plato's philosophy being delivered by Sri Jayaraman. It has been a very educative series of lectures delivered by Sri Jayaraman, which series began in September 2015, and he has covered almost the whole gamut of Western classical thought. Today he is going to speak to us on Plato's Republic. So far he has delivered 45 talks on Western philosophy, with the last of the series in the Greek philosophy, ending with Plato's Republic. Sri Jayaraman is going to take up other topics and cover the thoughts and philosophies of such great eminent thinkers in the Western classical culture like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Thoreau, Emerson, and then go to Chinese philosophical thought, begin with Confucius. Now, Sri Jayaraman needs hardly any introduction. He has a great enthusiasm in sharing the fruits of his studies and his passion for ideas, study of ideas. And he's very keen to share his fruits of his studies with the general public, and has contributed articles on these topics to various publications. One is an overview of Western philosophy, Sufism, Sufi poetry, Vedanta, Guru Granth Sahib, Hinduism, Theosophy and Philosophy. And the other book to which he has contributed some chapters is The Popular Introduction to Western Philosophy in Essence of Eastern Spirituality and Western Philosophy. The other topic on which he has very good knowledge and has contributed articles is self-inquiry according to Ramana Maharshi. And he is also well versed in the philosophy and the phenomenon of Chitta Krishnamurti in discovery of self, who am I? So with these brief introductory remarks, I request Sri Jayaraman to deliver his talk on Plato's Republic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ram Prakash, for your kind introduction. Good evening, all the listeners. Today it is going to be my concluding talk on Plato's Dialogues. As Mr. Ram Prakash told you, this will be my 45th lecture on Western philosophy. Today's topic is Plato's Dialogue Republic. You have to understand that this is one of the lengthiest dialogues of Plato, because it contains 10 books, nearly more than 1,000 pages at least. So, and it abounds in various ideas. Although the basic thing in Republic is ethics, ethical life, and then politics. When you see the name Republic, don't understand it's completely a treatise on political science. The primary, essential theme is ethics, and then the secondary theme is political science. So that's what we have to understand. It contains several topics which impinge on our life even today. That is the beauty about Plato's dialogues, because he always speaks of things which have eternal values. They have values for the humanity at any time. That's the greatness of Plato. Now let's come to this Republic. Who are the participants? Now, as in any other dialogue, the main participant is Socrates. Everything takes place in Athens, and it is in the house of one of the participants. His name is Cephalus, an old man. Then his son is there, Polemarchus. Then another person, a teacher.
Some mic, little bit. Yeah, exactly.
Thrasymachus. Then Plato's own brothers are also there, elder brothers, Glaucon and Adeimantus. So these are the people, but that's not very important for us. They are all there. And it is the house of Cephalus. What is the occasion? There was some festival of Artemis, one of the Greek gods. So, like, as in India, they celebrate a lot of festivals of gods. And then Socrates happens to come there to his house. They all will be having dinner, everything. And there will be talk. So, this is the occasion. This is the occasion when this dialogue takes place. So, Socrates is just meeting this old man, Cephalus, and asks how his life and all. And he is answering, yeah, it's all fine, so long as we have wealth and other comforts, then old age is not going to be difficult. You have to, but one should have, good life, good thoughts and all that. Then only, otherwise, mere wealth itself is not going to give you happiness. This sort of talk is going on. Then they wanted to, somehow the topic of justice was introduced, and so, as usual, Socrates is asking, can we talk, can anybody tell me what is this justice? So remember, justice is one of the major themes in this dialogue. You also know that justice is a virtue. In many of the Socratic dialogues, Platonic dialogues, we have seen that justice is one of the virtues. So here also, it is going to be a main theme. Justice is a main theme of Plato, but the way he brings, the meaning of justice, what is justice, is really very remarkable. Alright, now the question is asked, what is justice? We all have various conceptions of justice. So, as somebody says, justice is giving a man that which he deserves. Then another person says, justice is always in the interest of the stronger man. So there is a belief that, rightly so, even in the modern world, we all feel, there is a law, there is justice and all that, but who is making the law? The law is always made by the stronger man. So there was a feeling that everything, whatever you call justice, everything, it is what the strong man decides. So it is always in the interest of the stronger person. So a stronger person, is having the upper hand, and what he says is true. So this sort of view only is prevalent among the participants. So there was a lot of Socratic questioning, answer and all that. But Socrates says, I am not satisfied with this thing. So he feels that it is not like, only the justice is related only to the stronger person. He gives a lot of nice arguments. Don't think the strong person, a powerful person cannot commit mistakes. Powerful person also commits mistake, he does wrong, and a powerful person does not know everything which is in his welfare. So he will commit some stupidity, and that stupidity will harm himself, the powerful man. So these are all the nice points which Socrates brings out in the course of the dialogue with them, and says, no, I don't agree with you. Is a true this justice and just rule. Justice is conducive to harmony, unity, strength, all sorts of encomiums on justice. He wants to tell the advantages of justice and the disadvantage of injustice in the course of this entire dialogue, and at the conclusion he is able to convince the people that justice is good and what we want is justice in the world. So this dialogue is somewhat different from other dialogues. In most of the dialogue, Socratic questioning is there, and finally they will not be able to find a definite answer. The answer will not be a definite one, because it would end in aporia, some impasse. But here in Republic, there is going to be a positive contribution by Socrates in this dialogue to the concept of justice. So that is one thing we all have to understand very well. And so then what happens? These people, Glaucon, Adeimantus, the Plato's elder brothers, they want to play the devil's advocate. They want to, say that no, in this world, it is only, what is this justice? Everybody wants his own interest. So long, I was telling you that Glaucon, Adeimantus, they are the elder brothers of Plato. So they want to play the devil's advocate. And they say, oh, it's always, everybody does everything in their own interest. Where is this, who is seeing this justice and all. These points were made about things in general. They say there are certain things good in themselves, and certain things are good both in themselves and their consequences, and certain things good only for their consequences. Like that we can divide the things in general. And these points were made in the speech of Glaucon. What does he say? He says justice originates as a compromise between weak people who are afraid that suffering injustice is worse than doing it. So nobody wants to suffer injustice. That's point number 1. Then people act justly because this is necessary and unavoidable. So justice is good only for its consequences. That means, suppose you break the law and you are liable for punishment. So you have to be careful. Once you break the law, the consequences will be terrible. But if you are otherwise abide by the law, then you don't have bad consequences. So sometimes people will act in the just manner because of the consequences. Then, unjust person with the reputation for justice is happier. That is what they say in general in our life. The unjust person with reputation of justice is happier than the just person with the reputation for injustice. So these were the points made in the speech of Glaucon. before Socrates. So they all want to say what you call as justice and all is okay, but in actual life you can't say that the just person is always happy. So what is the burden of Socrates in this dialogue? He wants to show that no, on the contrary, it is the unjust person who is going to be very, very unhappy, and the just person is going to be happy. So he wants to contradict the thesis of this Glaucon and his brother Adeimantus and all the others who are supporting him, saying that no, justice, there is no use in the normal world. The just person always suffers. So he wants to reverse that thesis. With that aim only, Socrates, now he is going to deliver his main thesis. Now, in order to understand justice in the individual, that is mainly the purpose of this dialogue. You have to understand what is justice in the individual. So he adopts a very beautiful method. In order to understand justice in individual, he takes the case of a city. The city is an ideal city. That's what you have to understand. So he is going to construct an ideal city, and after analyzing the ideal city, there is going to be a comparison between the ideal city and the human soul, and we will arrive at what justice is. So this is the beauty of this dialogue. That is where the republic comes. Why the word republic? The name of the dialogue is Republic. It is because of this. You are taking, in order to understand justice, you want to understand a just city. And what is that just city is going to be discussed. And again Socrates says, it is a just city. After all, why you are taking a city. So he takes up the point that as human beings, we are all social animals. We can't live alone, we are dependent on other people. So in a society, and also each person has got its own ability, special ability. I am good at something, you are good at something, we are not good at equally in the same thing. So the abilities of people differ. So in a society, all sorts of people are there. They have to live in harmony. So and everybody has got basic needs, basic human needs. All these things have to be satisfied. So that is why it is better, we will try to understand what will be an ideal and just city. And then we will come to the other part, the justice in the individual. Now, coming to the city. What is important in a city? So now, I want to tell you, it has got something similar with the Indian system, Indian caste system. The Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaisya, and the workers, the Sudras. Some similarity is there with the system. So here, he divides in an ideal and just city people into classes, because our natural abilities are not equal. So simply saying all are equal in everything, no. That's one thing we have to understand. In our abilities we are not equal. So when we are living together in a city, the city has to be protected. First is the city has to be protected from the enemies. Not only enemies, one citizen has to be protected from the other. That's very important. See, in a city, policing is very important. Even today, nobody says police is useless. Policing, guarding is very, very important in a city. So there are guardians. Understand that there are guardians. Of course, there are rulers. The rulers are above the guardians. The rulers are there. The guardians are there. Then the rest of them, you can say the workers. The workers include the agricultural people, the various artisans, the various craft, everything, various professions, they all come under the class of workers. Then you have the class of guardians, then you have the class of rulers. So these three are very, very important, in any ideal city. So this is one point which he makes. And the guardians, of course the guardians are very important, so a large portion of the dialogue is devoted to the guardians. The guardians, he compares, they are like dogs, they are gentle to the owners, but when an enemy comes, they are very ferocious. So the guardians also should be like that. Not that the guardian should be all the time ferocious. He has to protect his own cities, he has to protect the laws of the cities, and he has to establish the harmony and all. That's why he becomes very important. So, in one of the books, third book, he also says many things about the qualities of the guardian. He has to be very courageous. He has to be courageous, and he requires a very careful education. So, while talking about his education, he has certain comments about, in book 3rd as well as in the ultimate book 10, about poetry. So, those days, what happens, there was a lot of poetry which were extolling the gods. They were narrating the exploits of the heroes and gods, all that, the Greek gods. Then you will find a lot of time, many things which were not edifying were there. Gods fighting with each other and having bad characters and all that. That means in many of the poetry, the gods and heroes were shown in a poor light. When you imitate them, it is not something ennobling. So that is why this sort of poetry where you are depicting things which are not edifying, they should be censored, they should be banned. Remember, in a republic, this is one of the, you have to take in the sense that the art also has got its purpose. In the name of art, kindly understand, you can't depict anything, and it has to be of educative value, and he has to give you some values in life. And if an art does not fulfill that purpose, it is worthless, it has to be abandoned, it has to be censored. So remember this point Socrates makes in this dialogue. That means the guardians also, you have to be careful as to what to teach them, what not to teach them. So he says the sort of imitative poetry which does not ennoble, which does not encourage you to be a person of character, this type of art is no longer appropriate for anybody, and that has to be censored. And the guardian should be of good health, so he should, you have to give him good athletic and gymnastic training. And then he says there should be always, the music training is also, and the music of such nature that it should not make you effeminate. That type of, there are some types of music and some types of art which really elevate your level, and they are really very important. See, even he says the physical, well-being conduces to the well-being of the soul. So that is the primary thing. So physical well-being is not simply for the health of the body, it is also for the health of the soul. There used to be an English saying, a right mind in a right body. So that is emphasized there. Apart from guardians who are important, the rulers are very, very important. Now the problem arises. How are these rulers selected? The rulers are selected only from the guardian class. That is his ideal city. So they are slightly older people, they are stronger people, and remember, they are wise. The rulers should be wise. The wisdom is the most important thing in the rulers. So rulers should have all these qualities. So there is a very nice and wonderful comparison, of these three classes of people. The top class, the rulers are the gold, then the guardians are the silver, and then the other worker class, they are the bronze. This is just a comparison, that is the thing. So that will be the society, and all are important. There is nothing like, one can be dispensed with, or one is lower in status, another is higher, because the society has to function and everybody is important in his own way. That is one thing. And also there can be mobility, vertical mobility, or both up and down from the classes, because the class is determined because of the character only and not because of birth. This is one thing we have to understand. It is not just because you are born to the particular class, born in a particular class, that you belong to the class. So there is this this mobility, the vertical mobility, upward or downward mobility is always assumed. Then other important social points are, again let us come to these guardians. These guardians are, not going to have any private property. Notice. They won't have any private property. They can't say, because they have to do their functions. And somebody said, oh, they will not be happy. Then Socrates said, it's not just for the happiness of one class and all. We are aiming at the happiness of the whole society. So, that's why guardians are there in their place. They will not, later he shows that they will also be happy. The guardians will not have private property. And another important thing, interesting thing is that these guardians, men, women, there is no system of marriage. That means Socrates advocates a certain sort of eugenics. Eugenics, you may be knowing that in animal science it is called the selective breeding. Here it is a sort of human eugenics which Socrates is advocating. He says the best of the guardian class, the best men, women, he says they will have there will be some sort of system by which only the best men and the best women will have physical relations, and the children, the offspring born out of that union, they will be immediately separated from their parents, So they will not say it is my child, your child and all that, nothing. And they will be immediately taken to the nursery and they will be brought up. So this is a very interesting feature of the society of guardians in Plato's Republic. That means they will be interested only in the guardian, will be interested only in their own work, and all children are their children. So there is no possessiveness and there is no interest, selfish interest in my family, my kid, my kin, because no one will be knowing. Nobody will be knowing who his child is. The child also will not know his father or mother. That means everybody is okay. You have to be friendly with everybody and all are important. So that is, maybe many people will be criticizing, what is this sort of thing, immoral society and all, but this is what is proposed there, because they want the guardian class to do their work, and not be bogged down in property, no property and all that. Yeah, but everybody will be given what is due to him, what is needed for him. All his needs will be taken care of by the society, but he will not be owning his private property. So now you see, the most interesting point is, when you found this type of just city, let us see what is this justice. He makes a very beautiful point. This type of city will be completely, this ideal city, remember, it is not the actual. There is always a lot of difference between the ideal and the actual. And in this ideal city, see, wise, wisdom, courage, moderation and just. Now let us see how this justice comes. See, there are wise people. The rulers are wise people who have already said the wisest, will be the rulers. So there is wisdom. And these guardians, they are courageous people. They will take care of the interest of the city as a whole. Its defense, protection, laws as well as people, everything. So there is courage. And then all the other workers, they are in their place, they will do their work. The agriculturists will do their work. The artisans, the technicians, the medicine, the doctors, all these people will be in their place doing their work. So, when there is courage, moderation and wisdom is the top, the rulers, then justice automatically comes into being. So, the balance of wisdom, courage and moderation, that will be justice, and the just city is coming into being with these, methods. So, see the correlation between the virtues and the just city. I hope you have understood it correctly. Now let us come to the main point, that justice in the individual. So for that, Socrates gives a very beautiful theory, full of psychology, on our soul. So his theory, we can call it, academics call it as tripartite soul. The soul has got three parts. Our human soul has got three parts. So what are those parts? See, at the lowest level, all of us, everybody. It's not that one person has got only one part and the others, no, not like that. All of us have got all the three parts, and the lowest part is the appetitive part. Appetites. So we have lot of desires, lot of desires, the bodily desires. The food you want to eat, you want to satisfy all the bodily desires. So that is the lowest thing which is there in every one of us. Then the second part, he calls it as the spirited part. The spirited part is nothing but emotion. All human beings, we have got emotions, all sorts of emotions are there. We have the emotion, fear, anger, sadness, honor. So our human life is full of emotions. So that is the spirited part. Then every one of us have got another part, which is the rational part. It is the uppermost. The reason. Everything, you want to find out the reason, and reason governs. So reason, in that sense, it is above the other two parts. That means when each part has its place, that is the important thing. Just as it was explained, that each class has got its place in the ideal city, and when there is a balance in all these things, there is justice in the city, and that is a just city. So in the same manner, in every human being, if each part has its functions, proper functions, and when there is a balance between them, then automatically there is justice. Note it. When there is a balance of parts in the soul, then justice comes into being, and that is justice in the soul. So you should have a balance in your soul between your appetitive part, spirited part, and the rational part, which is the reason. If in all the three realms, if there is a balance, then your individual also just, and you have the virtue of justice. So this is Plato's, or Socrates, you can say, contribution to justice, to understand justice. So you have to understand justice only in relation to all the three parts of the soul. That means it is related to the human psychology, the human psyche. this human soul. So justice is there in it. So this is a very wonderful concept. Now there are many other issues are also, so I will take up the other issues. So in book 5, there is a lot of discussion about women. Today they speak of feminism and all, and this is a very interesting thing. Those days, Socrates saw it, and he said, take for example the Gordian women. He says in no way they are inferior to men. That's an important contribution. He says if the Gordian men can perform certain actions, certain duties, Gordian women also can do all these things. So there is no reason that women, because you call them as a weaker sex or something, they cannot do this, that and all. They are equally capable of doing what these Gordian men can do. See, today you see that there is, courts say, Supreme Court says that girls should be admitted in the NDA, National Defense Academy. They are going to have the examination and all. Today they say women should be given rank in the army. All these talks are going on today. But you see, even in those days it was thought of. That is the beauty of Plato's Dialogues. Because the themes are eternal. They are valuable and they are valid for the humanity as a whole at all times to come. Not yesterday, today also, tomorrow also. So that is the beauty of Plato's Dialogue, which I normally appreciate. Then, let us come to, already I told you about there is no separate family for the Gordian class. That is reiterated. That's reiterated in the book 5 also. They have to do only their work, duty. That's why in the society what happens when everybody does his duty, there is a balance, there is no problem. But whatever problem comes because the wrong man is there in a place and he doesn't do his job, or even if you try to put the right man, he will not be allowed to do that. All these ills we are finding even in today's modern societies. Then there is a question, how this, alright Socrates, you are talking about this ideal city, all nicely, you have imagined many things and you have told, can you tell, is it really possible that an ideal city, how it will come into being? In the practical world, it is okay, in theory you are saying many things, but practically it is impossible. That is the view of the other other people in the dialogue. Then here is a very important saying of Plato. This is where the Plato says the importance of the rulers. So until the philosophers rule as king, that means the philosophers should be at the top. They should be the rulers. And until the rulers become philosophers, or until the philosophers become the rulers, this ideal city cannot happen. That is why there is so much praise for the wisdom, and it is, the man at the top should be a wise man. We had this concept of Raja Rishi. Janaka was a Raja Rishi. So this is exactly the same concept. The man at the top should be a wise man, and the ruler should have no selfish interest. That is the ideal thing. His interest is the interest of the whole city or the whole country. Today we can say the whole country as a whole. He doesn't have any personal interest. That is very important. So this is the importance. So your ruler should be a philosopher. And that means he requires tremendous training. So he proposes, how to give training for the rulers. Already I told you that rulers are selected from the, guardian class. The strong, the courageous, the wise, and all from the guardian class. They are selected. So it's not by birth. They're all selected. They have a system of selection. So when they select, and then these people are given very good training in all education, normal education, where importance is given to language, mathematics, arithmetic, solid geometry, this geometry and all. Then all the subjects, then gymnasium, music. Music means harmony. Each subject has got its own disadvantages. So, an education, is designed. The educational curriculum is designed for the philosopher who will become the future king. In fact, he gives a period. 15 years they will be given practical training. So that means he is not just an armchair philosopher, not somebody only writing some theses and publishing it in research papers. No armchair philosophy. It is practical philosophy of life. How you this thing. So this training he gives is very, very important. But what is the final thing? You see, in learning there are many things you learn. There are different subjects. But in Plato's philosophy, the final thing is the philosopher is able to appreciate, he is able to appreciate between the things which are inconstant, impermanent, and the permanent thing. So, he would have an understanding of the eternal things, the permanent things. That is where Plato's theory of forms comes. So finally, it is the philosopher only is able to understand. In other words, I can put what is this form and all. It is to understand what is good. What is the ideal good? It is the philosopher only who understands. Because he has to reach that level and he has to understand the form of the good. So that is the aim of this training. So only such beings should be there as rulers. So in this connection only, earlier in many talks we have covered, Plato's theory of forms. He gives wonderful analogies like the sun. The sun shines on everything and you can see it clearly. So philosophy is like that. Then he has got another analogy like a divided line. He takes one line, and divides into two unequal parts, top and bottom, vertical line. Again, each part is divided unequally. And then he is giving you things. The lower form of the line will represent images, shadows and all that. Many times we have vague images about what we have seen. Things which are not, very clear, some shadows and all that which are not real. Then we have the visible realm, visible objects we can see with the help of our eyesight, normal eyesight. They are the visible objects. They represent another segment of the line, higher line. Then we have certain sciences where we use reason and derive results in physical sciences and mathematical sciences, where we are reasoning, we are having certain, assumptions, axioms and all. We use our reasoning power to derive conclusions. They go on a higher scale. The sciences, the mathematical and physical sciences, they go on a higher scale. And then we have the final thing is the philosopher's form. The philosopher's understanding of the eternal truth. So this is the training. So he gives these analogies of the divided line, sun, and also the Plato's cave, which also we have studied many times, earlier also. It has been alluded to, like we are all like ignorant people, like the prisoners chained in a cave who can see only the shadows and not the real thing. But if somebody by chance, he gets out of it and goes out and see the sun and all the thing, then he knows that there is another world, what we were seeing only shadows like that. Yes? The normal people who don't have philosophic training, they have only a very lower level of understanding where we think that the changing things are reality, but changing things are not reality, but there is a fundamental reality which is beyond the changing reality that only a person trained in philosophy can appreciate and understand it. So that is Plato's contribution to philosophy and philosophers. That is philosophy. Philosophy, philos is love, sophos is wisdom, lover of wisdom, and such a person trained, he should be selected as the ruler, So, this is very, very important. So, guardians we understood how they have to be, rulers how, the others are the workers, they have to be in their places, they have to do their jobs. Okay. Now, yes, alright, then now the question arises, you have told the ideal city, how to bring about it? Somewhere he says, no, to bring about it from the present, chaotic condition, what we have to do is, you have to expel all the people beyond 10 years old and then you have to create this new ideal city, that is what Socrates says. Then the question comes, alright, ideal city you have described, and what is justice in a soul also you have very clearly explained, saying that it is the balance between the various parts. And now the question arises, how, we don't find, just cities, everywhere there is chaos and corruption and all that. So how things deteriorate? So there is a talk about the unjust regimes and the unjust individuals. How there are unjust regimes and unjust individuals. So here it is a very beautiful discussion on different types of regimes, different types of rules. Okay, so those days, the aristocracy, if you take the meaning of aristocracy also, aristocracy means excellence. So it is not a word, pejorative word, it is a good word only in all the languages. Aristocratic means something excellent, marked up, that is aristocracy. So there is no use in, decrying aristocracy and all. The real aristocracy is among the people who are excellent, in character, excellent in everything, knowledge, character and all. When you have that the cream of the cream, la crème de la crème, they say, so they are the essence, they are aristocratic. So when the real aristocracy is there, really, the rule will be good. So that is the just thing. But there is going to be deviation in normal life. Why there is deviation? That is also a very beautiful explanation he gives in terms of this, our soul. What happens? The first deviation from aristocracy is called democracy. In democracy, what happens? See, in aristocracy, it is the wisdom. You are interested in the welfare of the entire country, entire city. But in democracy, what happens? Those individual who is in power, she is much interested in his honor and success. His own honor and success. See, again it is the egoism, I am important. I have to be successful. I do this, I do that. So, there is an emphasis, wrong emphasis on power and success. So, when that is so, then there is a deterioration from the aristocracy. So, that is the first, unjust regime is democracy, where the person is not wise, so he goes down. So, his soul, they say, is between, it goes below. It is between the reason and spirit. His thing should be reason, but he goes below. So, somewhere the middle point, he says, he is somewhere in the middle point between the spirit, emotion and the reason. He is not exactly on reason, that is where the deterioration, democracy. Then comes Then another deterioration, further deterioration of the regime is the oligarchy. The oligarchy, what happens? Few of them, they are interested in their wealth. The wealth, excessive. They want wealth rather than even honor. They want to, accumulate money here, there, and all. So long as they are in power, they misuse their wealth. So there is the greed. The greedy pursuit of wealth dominates this oligarchic class. So what happens? Yes. See here, there are few wealthy individuals are there. There will be high crime rate because the poor people, there are more poor people. So it is this, Socrates is middle point between the spirit and appetitive part. So it is somewhere. So he is also coming down. Okay. Then, yes. Then comes the democracy. Today, if you talk anything against democracy, you will be politically incorrect. But the democracy as described by Socrates, there is not nothing much about it, which we can praise. Nothing to write home about it. They say you can't, because in that type of democracy, what happens? Rich become richer, poor poorer. There is a revolt of poor because there is, everybody says I have freedom, freedom. So freedom and license is going to be there. This sort of freedom. Everybody say no, my freedom is violated. So freedom turns into license. So that is what is happening in the democratic regime. And there the appetitive desires, that's all. There it is worse than your oligarchy. Man will go only after wealth and all that. There will be complete corruption. So it is the appetitive part which rules. That is your desire rules. So that will be the democracy. And still there is a coming down from the democracy. So because of this, everybody going after wealth, everybody going after his own freedom, there is revolt, and one man comes, oh, I want to bring order here and in the welfare of the group. So a tyrant emerges. Tyranny. Tyrant emerges. He says, I am the champion of the people. And in order to be in power, in order to retain his power, he is going to commit many unsavory things. Unsavory things. So Socrates says, so here it is completely, it is worse than democracy. Here this person is clouded by his own desires and lust. He commits all immoral acts. The tyrant always does it. All acts not approved by decent society he does, and this is the final deterioration of any just city, that is, and corresponding deterioration of the individual. So he very beautifully he says, this is how there is deterioration. So what is the remedy? That is why you require this wisdom. See, how can the question arises? It was also promised, what is happiness and what is the relation between happiness and individual. When we describe the tyranny and tyrant, that individual, we can understand how long it will go on. He cannot, a tyrant's life is also limited, and finally, because of his immoderate desires, because in him the appetitive part rules and not the rational part, he is completely ruined and he is the unhappiest man. A man bloated with self-pride and bloated with all his own importance, and he is a law unto himself, and such a man is a tyrant, and such a man is the unhappiest man. So, he is the unhappiest man. Then, he gives another things. There are three types of persons. In another place he says, one person pursues wisdom, another person pursues honor and another person pursues profit. So we can easily understand that the person who pursues profit is the lowest. Honor is okay, little higher than him, but he also comes to an end. Only the person who pursues wisdom, he pursues something eternal, something permanent, and not something changing, something varying, something evanescent. So he is the happiest man. So a wise man is the happiest man, and the wise man is full of justice, because all his parts of the soul are in balance. So this is what about happiness. In the 10th book of this Republic, there is also again a lot of discussion about the poetry. It is the same thing which I told you. He says poetry, art, everything should be edifying. That is the Socrates thesis. So such a thing which is not there, it is condemned, it is censored. And in the whole scheme of things, there is no absolute freedom for anybody. When we are living in a society, there are limitations for our freedom. We have to understand it. So understanding that is important. It is not that in the name of just freedom you can do anything. So that is why even the censorship and all these things are there. The government has the power to censor. That means the wise government. When a ruler is wise, he knows what to censor and what not to censor. So you cannot have some sort of absolute freedom, and you have license and you are spoiling the life of the city as well as the life of the individual. All these things are very relevant for modern times. Then the final part comes, alright, this is what you have said about justice, why we have to be just and how we have to pursue wisdom. So what is the reward of this justice? So at the concluding point, here also certain beliefs. Yes, the gods are looking, and definitely justice is rewarded and injustice is punished. Injustice is punished. So good thing comes to those who, those gods love. That means gods love those people who pursue justice. Okay, so there is a myth also, just like we have a lot of stories in Indian mythology. So there is a myth of Yer, where it illustrates the rewards and punishment in the afterlife. After the death, the souls go through some opening. On the right side when they go, they are all the just, and there is an opening. And then on the left side, it is the unjust. So they are going to be punished. So the others are going to be rewarded. And then the souls also can choose their next lives. So there is going to be reincarnation. So the next lives also can be chosen by the soul. Then the final exhortation of Socrates, he says, all of you, I want you to do well both in this life and in the afterlife. So thus ends the dialogue. So this is what I want to share it with you. This encompasses a variety of things which are important in Plato's philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jayaraman. We had an excellent lecture on Plato's Republic. Sri Jayaraman has covered almost the whole of the theme of Plato's Republic in just 1 hour. Excellent coverage of the very important, most important dialogues of Plato. And some of the important points we can recall. Mere wealth itself will not give happiness. It is a universal experience. Justice is a major theme, and meaning of justice is discussed. In one place, the idea of justice is based on a very mundane concept. One who is strong will decide what is just and what is unjust. So it will be partial, it will be selfish oriented. There is another is contrasted with true justice. A just person with a reputation of being just is another lower form of justice. So the common idea that just person will be happy, the common idea is a just person will not be happy because you will have to maintain the truth and justice, you will have to undergo suffering. This Plato dispels to finally show it is that the true happiness comes only for a perfectly just person. So the ideal republic is based on principles of justice. And another beautiful thing about Plato's Republic is that a very rational and clear, unambiguous exposition of the ancient system of Varna Dharma. What is Varna Dharma? Varna is not color of complexion or color of the skin. Varna is inner character. The person who have the inner side can ascertain from the aura of the person his true character, apart from what appears to the naked eye. So this is what Plato is teaching. It is the inner character of the person which determines his ability, his state of evolution, and so on. And he classifies them as those who are wise, fitted to be rulers, and just are classified as gold, and those who are fitted by innate ability with potential ability to be the ideal rulers would be the guardians, and others for various vocations, and the balance of all this makes a perfect society. So it has been an excellent exposition, and I suggest to the Minister of World Culture that we may have a series of talks, or the best is to have a course lasting about 10 or 15 classes on each one of the books of Plato. Why this is suggested is the educational value of Plato's Republic is very important. It goes to the very root of the principle of justice and morality and ethics with most scientific foundation. So this is a very high educational value. So the IWC management will do well in organizing a course for which a wide publicity may be given, and people who are interested may join. Like we had classes on a course on Western philosophy. We may have another one exclusively for the consideration of the Plato's Republic. So with this, I thank on behalf of the Indian World Culture, G.K. Jayaraman, for an excellent lecture on the Platos Republic. Thank you.